The DrumBrute Impact is a new analog drum machine from Arturia. It's smaller than the original DrumBrute, but it improves on it in a number of ways, so that's what we'll talk about today. I'll compare them a little bit, and we'll also, of course, listen to the sounds it's capable of. So going over the basics, you've got 10 sounds on 8 pads. The toms, high and low, share a pad, and the cymbal and the cowbell share a pad. The sequencer is identical to the original DrumBrute. You get up to 64 steps. You can do polyrhythms, so individual lengths for each drum channel. You can record by performing with the pads, either quantized or unquantized, and you toggle that by doing Shift and the record button. Whatever drum you last hit, you can enter steps. There is global as well as per track swing. One of my favorite features of the sequencer is the randomization. There is global as well as per track randomization. Here I'm dialing in global randomization, so the pattern's gonna keep making variations of itself. Something I like to do is have just a little bit of global variation, but then on certain tracks, like not the kick or the snare, but maybe most of the other ones, activate per track randomization. That gives you some nice variations and also works really well with the looper feature. So up here there's a touch strip, and as you hold down these different time divisions on the touch strip, it will loop your beat. But if you have random active on some of the tracks, it won't loop the same way every time. So it's a fun way to get fills easily. If you press Shift 9, that activates the roller. So instead of the touch strip being a looper, it is now a roller, meaning that as you're playing a pattern, anytime you hold down the looper and press a pad, that pad will roll at that subdivision. Now those are just performance tools. You can't actually record the rolling or the looping into your sequence, but you can do that kind of ratcheting effect in the sequence by pressing a step down and then the touchpad to whatever division you want. So let's talk about the big differences between the original DrumBrute and the Impact. The original had 17 sounds on 12 pads, whereas the Impact has 10 sounds on 8 pads. The original also has 12 individual outs, while the Impact only has 4 individual outs. You get kick, snare, hats, and FM drum, and anything you plug in there does get taken out of the mix output. Here's the size comparison. As you can see, the DrumBrute Impact is a fair bit more compact. Their height off the table is pretty much identical. Cosmetically, I prefer the original. It's just got a cleaner look. The fake wood sides are convincing enough, actually, for me, whereas on the Impact, there's this orange shit. The DrumBrute has 6 sounds that the Impact doesn't have, and that's the rim, high conga, low conga, maracas, tambourine, and zap. The Impact has 2 sounds that the original doesn't have, and those are the cowbell and the FM drum. And you can kind of get a zap out of the FM drum. One other minor difference is the feel of the pads. I like the Impact more. They're a little bit softer compared to the stiffness of the original DrumBrute. Just a little bit. On the original DrumBrute, there was a filter, and on the Impact, there is not, but they've replaced it with a distortion. As you can hear, when I'm all the way up on the distortion, things do really break up a lot, and it is a post-mix distortion. So if you turn your levels down on your drums, that will actually affect the amount of distortion. So I've been finding for the punchiest sounds, I turn the distortion a little bit further down. I have it about 10 o'clock, and then the drums are mixed at about 50 to 75% of maximum volume, and that's sort of been my sweet spot. The final big difference between the two drum machines is this color feature. So each drum, other than the cowbell, when you activate color, will sound different. So you just get a variation on tonality over your whole kit, other than the cowbell, and I find the general rule is when you have color activated, it's a slightly fuller sound. It's got a bit more body to it. Color can also be activated per step, so let's put it on our kick drum. I'll select the kick drum, press color, and press a step. Here's a quick comparison of all the sounds that the two machines share. I programmed identical sequences into both and tried to match their drum settings as close as possible, but you can definitely hear they each have their own character. Are there any drawbacks? Yeah, there's a few. Let's talk about them. With the cowbell, that's just the cowbell. There's no parameters you can adjust with the cowbell, which is kind of annoying. I'd love to change the pitch of that, the decay of that. Tone would be a bonus. And then the FM drum. It has a lot of weird spots and not as many sweet spots, so I don't find myself using it too much. One thing I would really love to have is to be able to sequence the pitch of the kick drum. Right now, you pretty much just gotta set it where you want it set, and that's where it's gonna be. But so many songs nowadays are this sound set. They're like an 808 style drum kit where the bass drum is moving around. Maybe you have a sample on top and like Drake, and that's a whole song. So if you could use this kick as your 808 bass line, I think that would be amazing. That'd be next level. So overall, if you're in the market for an analog drum machine, I would definitely consider the Impact. I think most of the sounds are really, really good. The sequencer is super easy to use and offers some nice things like polyrhythms and randomness, and it's affordable. I think this is supposed to go for $300, which I can't think of what else to compare it to. When you're looking in that price range, it's hard to think of something that is as fully featured for a true analog drum machine. Hope this was a helpful review for you. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed. Thanks for watching and subscribing, and I will see you next time.